All right, let's get started. So you have a child who gets really, really angry, and probably over the top angry. And these are the kids that I work with a lot. My name is Rebecca Freeling. I am the owner and the family coach at Wits End Parenting. I have a background in early childhood education and in cabinet. And I specialize in working with intense, really strong workers. And I coach and with the strategies that directly address strong willed kids' needs. And what we're going to be covering today, sorry, I lost my place. Thank you for your patience. This is our first one, and I must admit, I'm a little nervous. Thank you for bearing with me on this, and people are giving me advice, and I really do appreciate it. Just when you join, remember to turn off your camera and mute your mic. Okay, so today we're going to talk about what to do when spirited kids get really angry. Andrew is 10. He was 10 when he came to me, and when he got angry, he would say horrible things. F you! You're the worst mom ever! You suck! Why did you even have kids? Right? And Alice, who was 4, she would go into hour-long tantrums where she insists that her parents explain to her why she can't have what she wants, why that should be true, why she has to go to school, why she has to put her shoes on. I'm going to interrupt myself here just a minute. Kirsten is our tech support, so if you're having technical problems, I'm just going to say, Kirsten, please help. Okay. Got it. Yeah, there, she got it. She fixed it. Okay, good. Hello, nice to have you. If you have your camera on, everyone can see you, so you might want to turn off your video. All right, the key points that we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to try to share this thing again. There we are. So the key points that we're going to be talking about today are temperament, especially emotional intensity, tantrums and rages, aggression, what not to do, and what to do instead. And since this is just an hour, we're not going to be able to go into some details that would be really, really satisfying to you. But what I want to do is give you a little different picture than you perhaps have gotten in the past from parenting experts and people who don't specifically work with spirited kids, who have this really high emotional intensity. Now I'm going to stop. First, let's talk about temperament. Temperament is just the way we respond to the world, right? We talk about, oh, people are introverted, or, oh, she's so reactive, oh, she's so hyper. Like all of these things that just make us who we are. They're just parts of our personality, and they're perfectly natural. Like we don't really say that introverted people, there's something wrong with them, right? We don't say that extroverted people have something wrong with them. In fact, we think extroverted people are like, oh yeah, everybody should be like that. But actually, we also have learned to appreciate some of the qualities of introverted people. So temperament intensity is something that often comes up when we're talking about spirited kids, because it's their intensity that gives them, you know, that beautiful smile that you want to see at the end of the day. When they're really happy with you, they're really, really happy with you. But when they're mad at you, they're really, really mad at you. And it can be scary to some people to see a child get that angry. But this emotional intensity is a temperament trait. It's not a character flaw. The passion that spirited kids have the low frustration tolerance. They usually have a high need for control. These temperament traits tend to go together, and they're normal temperament traits. Now, the plus side of this emotionally intense temperament is that these kids are passionate. When they take up a cause, they're totally dedicated to it. They're committed, and they're sensitive. These are really, really good qualities to have. But when you mix them all up in a little kid who has not yet learned emotional regulation, they can be really difficult to deal with. Thank you for asking about the slides. You're going to be seeing slides sometimes. So right now, I'm not sharing any slides, but I will be later. And just be sure to mute your mic. It looks like there's some background noise. Okay, let's talk about tantrums. Tantrums are your friend. Okay, say it with me. Tantrums are your friend. They really are. Tantrums are the way that children can express their emotions. It's an immature emotional expression. It's a normal part of human development, right? Around 1.5 years, 2 years old. If you see a 2-year-old who throws himself on the ground and they're screaming and yelling and kicking, you don't think, oh my gosh, what's wrong with that kid, right? You think, oh, the twos, right? Now, if you see a 7-year-old doing that, people think, oh, what's wrong with that kid? So what's wrong with that kid is nothing. What that kid needs to learn is how to express those strong emotions in a way that's more appropriate. And often with spirited kids, we see that they're advanced in some areas and not so advanced in other areas. And one of the areas that they tend to sort of lag behind is emotional regulation. And so if we come to them as educators and not punishers, we're going to make a lot more progress with helping them learn how to regulate their emotions. So I've said that sometimes the intense anger and rages are normal, right? Cool. Okay, we're done. Have a nice day. No. You still need to learn how to deal with them, right? It's all fine and good to say, oh, yeah, spirited kids are so awesome. They have so many strengths. They're so beautiful. They're so powerful. It's so great. But then to not address this other side is really kind of leaving you in the dark. So I want to first talk about some of the advice that experts are giving about what to do when children are angry. And some of these things do work with children who are less intense. But if they're not working with your kid, that's because they're not right for your kid. Mm-hmm. So here's some common approaches. All right. Oh, let me introduce my assistant, Cheetah. Cheetah, say hi. There's like all these people. I know. Are you nervous? It's okay. It's okay. You're going to help me out, okay? Okay. All right. Cheetah's going to help us out. Okay. So if Cheetah is trying to build with her blocks, okay, and she knocks her tower over, oh, and she starts getting frustrated and she starts yelling. Okay, here's what you're taught to do, right? You come up to Cheetah and you say, oh, Cheetah, that must be really frustrating. Okay, and the effect that that's supposed to have on Cheetah is Cheetah goes, yeah, Mommy, I'm really frustrated. I feel really frustrated with these blocks. And you can go, oh, yeah, those darn blocks. Shall we try again? Okay, Mommy, let's try again. Is that what it looks like in your house? Probably not. Here's what it might look like in your house if you try to do this very good idea. Cheetah's stacking up her blocks. So, you're a stupid block. Mommy, why'd you put in a stupid block? And if I come up to Cheetah all chill, calm, and centered and say, oh, Cheetah, you must be so frustrated. Right? I get attacked. It's my fault. The tower fell over. I bought these stupid blocks. Why did I ever buy these stupid blocks? Right? This is what we talk about with empathy, where you're trying to sort of be on the kid's page. Another thing that we're taught to do when children are frustrated or angry is to give them lessons in verbalizing that anger. You know, so Cheetah comes up and says, "Mommy, can I have a popsicle?" And I say, "You can have a popsicle after dinner." Okay, now Cheetah is going to get angry. "I want one now." And I'm supposed to say, "Oh yeah, I see you're really frustrated that you can't have a popsicle right now. I wish you could have a popsicle. I want to give you a popsicle. I know." All right, but here's what Cheetah's going to do. "No, I'm not angry that I can't have a popsicle. I'm angry that you're such a mean mom. Why aren't you talking to me? Stop talking to me." Right? They just spin. Okay, now we're all over the kitchen, and now she's throwing dishes and all that. Okay? That's helping them teaching them how to verbalize these feelings, right? Then we want to, then there's this advice to give them a lesson in perspective. Parents sometimes, when they bring their kids to me, they'll say, "Can you help me convince my Cheetah that when he drops his pencil in class, it's not a level 10 emergency. It's not a level 10 disaster." And my answer is no. I cannot convince your child that this is not a level 10 disaster. What I can do is help you teach your child what to do when there's a level 10 disaster. So people try to teach the kids this perspective. And there's some great books on teaching kids perspective. There's some great books on helping them measure how big of an event it is. But when you're in this moment of rage, that's not the time to do it. You're never going to do it, right? If I've got, okay, Cheetah dropped his blocks. Okay, now it's a disaster. And I'm like, "Cheetah, it is not that big of a deal." Okay, now I'm going to get hit. Now I'm going to get attacked again. And this is all fine if you're dealing with a 2-year-old. Because it's like, okay, fine, 2-year-old hit me, like whatever. You're going to outgrow that. But when you start seeing that in children who are 10 or 11 or 12, then it's really a bigger problem. And trying to convince those kids of something when they're in that mood is futile. It's not going to work. Okay, now here's some advice out of attachment parenting, where we're really focusing on connection. And that advice is to stay close to an angry child. And even if the child is hitting you, to stay close. I get a lot of calls from people who are using attachment parenting, and at around age 4, they're not getting the results they need because their child is starting to hit them and is getting really, really angry. And staying close to a child who's hitting you, right? If they're 1.5 years old, it's no big deal. Of course, you don't want to go away from that child. You want to help that child, all right? But if we're working on emotional regulation for children who are older, staying close to them can actually hurt you. And then you can't, and then you're supposed to say things like, "I won't let you hit me," okay? And you hold their arms, right? Hold their hands. "I'm not going to let you hit me." "Okay, well then I'm going to kick you." Okay, that's not working. So if that's not working for you, it's okay. Like, you're not doing it wrong. It's just not enough to connect with a spirited child who's really, really angry. Okay, and then one more thing that people do is they punish children for having a tantrum. And even if they're not into punishment, they're still seeing this tantrum as bad behavior. And, well, no, you don't get your popsicle because you threw a tantrum. And, my parent, my mom used to do this. "You stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about." Right? Okay. Not working, because what she was doing was she was saying that my emotional response was the bad behavior. And what we want to be able to do is say, you can get as angry as you want, Cheetah, but you can't hit me. But just telling Cheetah that isn't going to really help him understand what that means. Okay, so I'm going to come back to that concept. So don't worry, I'm going to move on from it now, but I'm going to come back to it. Thank you, Cheetah. Cheetah will join us again later. All right. So, you want to know what to do? First of all, we want to allow the anger. And by allow the anger, depending on the age of your child, you've been trying to do that for years. You've been trying to validate. You've been trying to make space for that anger. And if you really can say to your child, great, it's great that you're angry. It's fine that you get that angry. And you don't want your child to hear you complaining about it to other parents or saying, saying to him, man, I can't believe how mad you got about that. That was amazing. I've never seen anybody get that mad. When children hear those messages, they start to think, I'm doing it wrong, but I can't understand how I'm doing it wrong because this is just how I feel. Your children need to know that they can bring you anything. They can bring you any issue. They can bring you any emotion, and you can handle it. And so the very first thing when I talk to people about tantrums and this anger is there's something that needs to shift in your perspective sometimes of saying, okay, the anger response is not the bad behavior. It's not even maladaptive behavior. It's just the anger response. And when we let the child have that and we create space for that, then they can start to master it. A big obstacle to children mastering their anger is them feeling like they're bad for being angry. And, when I talk to children about this, they'll say, yeah, yesterday I was bad. And I'll say, okay, well, what did you do? Well, I got mad at my mom and I yelled and I threw stuff. It's like, okay, well, what part of that was bad? Well, I shouldn't get mad at her and I shouldn't throw stuff. Okay, well, I can say, yeah, you shouldn't throw stuff in the living room, but there are places you can throw things, right? So that's part of making space for this. Another thing that really makes it difficult for children to self-regulate, for spirited children especially, because they have this high need for control, they don't like to feel like they're being manipulated. And I think one of the reasons that so many of the positive discipline, attachment parenting techniques don't work with spirited kids is because they feel like they're being manipulated. And it's not your intention to manipulate them. It's not your intention to be using your power over them. But they kind of sense this like, oh, you're just saying that to get me to calm down. And well, I'm not going to calm down. And I had one little 4-year-old recently say to her dad, well, I'm going to yell if you don't give it to me. And nobody wants that, right? And he's like, yeah, I totally don't want that. So I told him, you need to stop not wanting that because that you're setting up a conflict. So even as Cheetah's like losing her mind about something, if I come in with this totally like zen, quiet, and try to interact, it sends her higher. And I think the reason that it sends her higher is because now she not only has her own anger to deal with, but now she has a conflict, a perceived conflict. I'm not trying to be in conflict with her. I am trying to calm her down, okay, which tells me that I think there's something wrong with how out of it she is. But if I just come with that calmness, it's not going to work. So your response, and this is, you have to use your intuition with this, okay? Because there's kind of two groups of responses that work well. And of course, they're on opposite ends of the spectrum because that's where your child is. Your child's not in the middle, probably hardly ever. So here's one, all right? She's just like, going nuts with this. Yeah, you're the worst mom ever. You're a stupid mom. I wish you were burning on fire. I would, all this blah, 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 blah. Okay? One of my responses is to just turn away and go back to what I was doing. Just let Cheetah, all over, blah, 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 yelling, 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 yelling terrible, horrible things, right? I wish you'd never been born. I wish I'd never been born. You didn't want any kids. You love my brother more than me. You never listened to me. How could, like, whatever it is that's my button, right? Cheetah's going to figure out how to push it in that moment. Okay, so here's one response. Complete disconnection so that I'm not muddying the waters with my responses. And Cheetah's just in this space. I'm fine with the rage, cool beans, whatever, it's totally cool. I'm going to do my thing. And then when Cheetah's ready to come down, and when we get to the part, I'm right there, right? And I'm cool, and we're going to hug it out, and it's all going to be good. Okay, that's one possible response. Now another possible response, and not everybody can do this because this relies on you being able to match their intensity and also love their intensity. Now if you don't love their intensity, that's okay. You don't have to really love that about them. But if you can, and if you can, you probably have that intensity yourself. You can actually match their intensity. So I've had good experiences with when a child is yelling, why don't you give me a popsicle? And I just go, and you have to be sure you're not making fun of them, okay? Go, I know I never give you popsicles. You never give me popsicles. Why don't you ever give me popsicles? Why don't I ever give you popsicles? You never get popsicles. Why don't I ever give you popsicles? So I'm reflecting, but I'm not reflecting in this like, oh, it seems like you think I never give you popsicles, right? Which would not end well. Okay, now that's where I'm going to get Cheetah attacking me. So these are two responses. You can not respond, or you can match the responses. You can say, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I had a parent recently who sort of heard me say that, and he was very intrigued. He's like, okay, I'll try it. And he picked his daughter up from school, and she wanted something, and she couldn't have it. And she started flipping out. She's in the back seat. She's flipping out. And then the dad just goes, okay. And he felt really weird because it's like so counterintuitive to him. But he goes, oh my gosh, you can't have it. I don't know what to do. I don't know what you're going to do. And then after like a minute of that, the girl just goes, Daddy, you can just get it when I go home. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. And since he wasn't opposing her energy, she didn't have to hang on. And that's a really big piece of working with spirited kids, is this need for control. And, we'll do some videos on discipline and stuff, and that need for control really comes in when we start talking about discipline. Okay, but we're not there yet. So as part of that, as part of this possible response, you can give words to what they're feeling, but you need to use their words. I'm so mad, I wish you were dead. You're so mad, you wish I was dead. And using this intensity validates it in a way that you sort of using a validating tone can never do. If I'm using a calm tone saying, yeah, you really wish I was dead. Like, okay, now I wish it 10 times more, right? Because now I'm opposing. And another thing that's really important for us to do when we're trying to teach spirited kids how to manage their anger is to model how we manage our anger. You manage your anger really, really well most of the time, right? Which is one thing that's so frustrating about being a parent, because you're constantly doing this, like, today I'm going to be calm, positive, mommy or daddy. Today I'm not going to yell. Right? You are doing amazing work managing your anger. The only problem is the child isn't seeing what you're doing. Maybe they're seeing you take a deep breath. Maybe they're seeing you. My mom tried to manage her anger, but there was this point, this way she would breathe. She'd go. I was like, oh, okay, she's not managing it so well anymore. Like, you could tell. Like, she's trying, but it's not going. I need to get out of here. But so you want to model them and sort of open up the workings. Show them what you're doing to manage your anger. And if you can show them what you're doing and things that don't relate to them, like if you're driving, you know, and somebody does something that you don't like, you can say, oh, I really want to shake my fist at that guy, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm really mad, though, and my fist is right here ready to go. I'm going to pound the seat a little bit. When I pound the seat, it kind of makes me feel a little bit better. And I remember it's not going to do any good to shake my fist at that guy or whatever. and it might start a fight, and I don't want to start a fight. This is what I really want. I just want to drive to where we're going and get there safe. So I'm going to manage this. And if you can show them what you're doing, first of all, it normalizes getting angry. It makes it okay that you're angry. It communicates it's perfectly normal to get angry. And everybody gets angry. Now, it is true that some people, I say it's true because people tell me it. Okay. I am a very intense person, so it's hard for me to believe it. But some people tell me they have never really felt deep, deep rage. So I'm going to believe that because people have told it to me. So if you are one of these people who does not have this anger response that's quick, it can be very difficult, and actually it can be really scary to meet somebody who has this. But you still deal with your anger, even though your anger isn't as intense. And your child needs to know that, because it's just part of the human condition. You taught them how to talk, you taught them how to walk, you taught them how to eat, and a lot of this stuff you did not do through direct instruction. You did through modeling. And it's the same thing with emotional expression. So the more you can talk about, and you can even tell stories. Gosh, today I got so mad at this customer who came into the store. I thought they were being so unreasonable, and I just really had to tell myself, well, you need to be calm. You need to try to understand their position, and just like talk it through. Here's what we do. Here's what we do. Make it okay. Everybody gets angry, and everybody has a way of dealing with it. Okay. We also need to plan for the anger. Some types of anger, some types of rages are cyclical. One of my favorite stories is a 10-year-old girl who was a very high achiever. She had set big standards for herself. She was in something after school every day. She was an artist. She was a musician. She played soccer. She played chess. She didn't want to give any of this up. She recognized that it was stressful. She was doing things to help manage that, but she was very happy with what she'd do during the week. And so her moms on the weekend, they wanted to go and have family time, because both of these moms were also high achievers. They really wanted to do well in their work, and then on the weekend they just wanted to go and do fun things, right? But they said, you know, Rebecca, we don't know what to do. Every Saturday, we plan something so fun. We plan something really great, and, you know, she just ruins it every Saturday morning. She just has this huge tantrum, and, you know, we can never go anywhere. And I said, every Saturday morning. Okay. And the girl was in the session with us, and I said, do you feel like you need to have a meltdown every Saturday? She's like, yeah. And then I feel better. It's just so, you know, it's just stressful. And it'd just be nice if I could just be able to have a meltdown every Saturday. You know, and so, and her parents were like, oh, come on, come on. And I said, okay. She gave you a very clear message. I need a meltdown every Saturday morning. So we actually planned a Saturday meltdown. She talked about, you know, what her mom could do to trigger this meltdown. It was sort of a little series of things, but the final straw was her mom was to come into her room and say, please clean up your room. That would set her up. And then she would have her meltdown. She'd cry, she'd scream, she'd pound her pillow. She stayed in her room. And then she came out, and by 10:30, they were ready to go. And they had these lovely weekends. And it taught her that her intuitive way of managing this was correct. And it taught her parents she actually knows what she needs, and she's trying to get it. And I think especially when these things are cyclical, a lot of times you'll get a meltdown right after school. Some kids wake up on the wrong side of the bed 6 out of 7 days of the week. You know, some kids really don't like being rushed in the morning. Some kids don't like going to bed at night. Like, there's these times when they're just, okay, every bedtime we're having a tantrum. Every morning we're having a tantrum. Okay, those are emotional expressions that need to happen. And how can we integrate them into our daily life in such a way that we feel like the child is getting their needs met, but we don't feel like we're being searched around by these emotional needs. A lot of times the difficulty the parents have with these tantrums is they're invasive, and they happen in the middle of some event.
Yep.
So, you know, we're gonna wake up on Saturday morning, we're gonna have our wonderful pancake breakfast, and it's gonna be awesome, and we're gonna snuggle, and we have this great morning. You know, and then we're going to go to Target, and then we're going to go to a birthday party, and then we're going to go to the grocery store, and then we're going to come home and have movie night. So sometime between pancakes and movie night, there's a meltdown. And one of the best tools you have is your intuition. And you know when something's too much. You know when something's about to happen. If you think, oh, God, I hope she doesn't. She's gonna. You're connected. If you see her walking into a birthday party and your stomach goes, chip, you need to do something. You need to respond to those little signals that you feel. And if you know, okay, we had this great breakfast, then we went to Target, then we went to the birthday party. Okay, I don't know what it is about Target. I mean, my inner 4-year-old can't handle Target. That's for sure. Right? Target is like, you probably already don't go to Target anymore. But you might want to look at that and go, okay, we always have problems at Target. Let's go to Target after the birthday party. Or how about I drop her off at the birthday party? I go to Target and then I come back. No, you probably don't want to drop her to birthday party if she's going to melt down. But think about this order of things. And the goal is not to just sort of try to live your life while your child's not interrupting it, but to really integrate your child into these things. So we can make plans about how to make a Target trip work. We can make plans about how to make a grocery store trip work. And one of those is really looking at what I call the mood clock, where if I'm going to do something, you know, if I have an event for children, I always have it at like 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to try to have an event for children at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because it's not going to work. It's not a good time for them. Hardly anybody, child or adult, is at their best at 3:30 in the afternoon. And so we want to be planning around it, and you want to be trusting your gut on that. And you can say things like, if you're going into the birthday party, okay, and you see something, there's some signal, right, whether you saw a visual signal, or you heard something, or you just let your gut go like that, say, Cheetah, hold on. We might have a problem. I think there are too many people at this birthday party. I think this birthday party is too loud. I think those two kids that you always get in a fight with are at this birthday party. What are we going to do? And Cheetah might be able to help you make a plan about it, and she might not be able to help you make a plan about it. But now you've alerted her. You know, I know, this could be a problem. And you can say, hey, you know what, if this gets too hard, I'm going to pick you up and take you to the car, and we're going to go home. That's if you can pick her up. So she's out in the park. She's like, no, it's going to be fine, Mom. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. So you don't believe her. Your gut doesn't believe her. If your gut doesn't believe her, don't go and hang out with the other parents, you know, 50 feet away from where the kids are playing. You're going to want to hang out by Cheetah. Part of what we need to do is to help them regulate their emotions is we need to be close by them when they're triggered. That's the time to stay close, so that you can either help them, you know, oh, that kid just made a face at you. What do you want to do? And if Cheetah's already, I want to kill her. Okay, we're going to go home now, right? Because you're not going to get anywhere. But if you can intervene in these things soon enough, you can sort of train this response. And that's one of the things that I help parents with when we're working individually together. How do you jump in before something happens? And if you have a background in education, you have studied and you have worked with kids, and you know, you can kind of tell when a kid is starting to get tense. But like, if your background is in accounting or marketing, you're not supposed to know this stuff. It's not necessarily intuitive, except that you can still feel because you connected to your child something's wrong, so you don't know what to do about it. And the answer is usually simpler than you think. It doesn't have to be this like, you know, really well thought through response. It can just be, hey, what's up? Hey, you're getting really mad. What's up? Hey, that kid just threw down the present you gave her. What's going on with that? And just be real. It seems like you're getting upset. You want help. And sometimes you're going to get a really great response out of that. You're going to get a really great result out of that. Sometimes you're going to get a tantrum out of that, and that's fine. Either one of those things is good, because if you got the tantrum, then maybe you can move away. So say we're at a party at a park. Okay, we've got a tantrum now because she didn't get the biggest birthday piece. Her piece was 10 times smaller than everybody else's. Okay, I'm not going to get out a tape measure and try to convince her it wasn't, because she's convinced it was. Okay, now we're having a tantrum. I'm going to take her away. It's possible that after the tantrum I can bring her back. It's possible that after the tantrum I can't bring her back. And that's sort of where we get into some of these individual, like, getting familiar with this child's rhythm, getting familiar with your rhythm, how you can work together on it. So what we're wanting to do with this anger is to allow it, to let them be angry in your presence, to create space for their anger response. I'm going to say more about that in just a second. And to either not respond or to respond with a matched intensity. And really, really, really super important, to model what you do when you get angry so that you can calm down and behave appropriately. And then also planning for it. If you've got cyclical anger, going on. If you have a meltdown at 4 o'clock every day, great. Don't schedule class at 4 o'clock. Schedule, we're going to be home, or we're going to be at a park, or you're going to be in an aftercare, or you're going to be with somebody. We can have your 4 o'clock meltdown. That's cool. No problem. Okay, now, what about when kids are hitting, kicking, biting, and breaking things? This is a really big problem with spirited kids a lot of the time. Since this extreme anger extends past the age of 2, 2.5, 3, you have an 11 or a 12-year-old who's extremely angry and wants to get physical. That person can do a lot of damage. I knew a 14-year-old who didn't get to do something he wanted to do, and his parents went out. And when they came back, he had taken all of the kitchen knives and stabbed them into the kitchen cupboards. Very alarming for the parents to come home and see all the knives stabbed into the cupboards. So when you have an older child who has not yet learned to regulate the emotion, it's a little bit of a different animal. You can't walk up to that child and go, hey, you're feeling this frustrated. Right? We need something else to do with a child who is who's really lashing out physically. And there is this idea in some of these parenting methods that children hit their parents because they feel safe with them, and they feel that they can therefore express their frustrations on them. I actually disagree. I think I don't think it's about the children feeling safe. I think it's about them feeling angry and not knowing what to do. And because they're projecting that anger, they're right? When Cheetah's block tower fell down, whose fault is it? It's mine. Why? Because I'm here. She doesn't want to take responsibility for it. That's not weird, right? When something goes wrong, like, we'd rather have it be somebody else's fault. So the only thing that makes any of this really, really difficult is that the intensity that spirited kids bring to this is over the top. So if you want them to learn, so we're teaching them two things. When we're dealing with them hitting us, we're teaching them two things. One thing we're doing is teaching them how to deal with their anger appropriately. Another thing we're teaching them is what to do when someone hurts them or hits them. So you are modeling the behavior you want them to have when they're in a relationship, say they're in their 20s. They get into an intimate relationship and somebody starts to hit them. What do you want them to do? Do you want them to stay close to that person? Do you want them to just empathize with that person? No. You want them to separate from that person. Hello. You can have a meltdown or a tantrum without hurting someone else. When we disallow the aggression, but we allow the anger, we're teaching people that it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to hit. You can say that 100 million times, and you probably have. But if they're not getting it, they're not getting it. Because it has to be done in the physical world. So one of the most effective ways to teach somebody not to be aggressive with other people is to physically separate them from the people they're hurting or the things they're hurting. Everybody who is on the call, could you please mute your audio? Some people do not have their audio muted. Let me see if I can identify. It looks like GP. Okay, you got it. Are we good? I think we're good. Whoop, what a lot of nice people on the call. Okay, GP, if your initial's GP, I think your mic is on. There we go. Good job. Okay, how's that? Does it sound like everybody's muted now? Okay, super duper. Okay. Where was I? Separating. Okay, so we want to separate. Now, well, then what? Okay, now here's where we have what I call the cool down room. Okay, now I'm going to share this. I'm going to share the another PowerPoint with you. Okay, the cool down room is a place your child can go when they're really, really mad. Your child may not want to go to this place. You may have to force your child to go to this place. But this is the way that you're going to train them how to deal with their anger. And what's in the cool down room? Don't put all these things in your cool down room. There won't be room for the kid. But these are things that people have found successful, that kids have found very satisfying to have in the cool down room. You know, you want big pillows or like a mattress to hit, yell, kick. Kids who want to kick like to kick mattresses. They like to kick beanbag chairs. Kids who like to hit, it feels good to hit a mattress. It feels better to hit a mattress than a soft pillow because the mattress kind of has a little bounce to it, you know. And a punching bag is really good as long as it doesn't have a face, because remember, we're trying to communicate you don't hurt people. So if your punching bag has a face, you're hurting people. Some kids really get into having paper to tear. Now when you get a phone book, you can be like, yay, we got a phone book. Just put the phone books in there. Just put the paper recycling in there, the cardboard to tear. Some kids really, really get excited about that. A ball to throw. So if your child's anger response is to start picking stuff up from the room and throwing it, they need something in that room to throw. Watch their body, because their body knows what it needs to do to release this energy. A rod to hang from. Some kids really, really like this feeling of, you know, the tension and, you know, the sensation of having this upper body feel strong and be able to swing. Something to climb. Some people actually put little climbing wall rocks on the walls of their kids' room or like on the walls on the way to the hall. Mats on the door. So I put my kid in her room, but then she just lays on the floor and she kicks the door with her heels. Great. Put a mat on that door. She can kick it to her heart's content. A drum. It's nice to have a drum in there. What else do you want in there? Ask your child about it. Look at your child's body when they're having a fit. What do they want to do? Some kids roll. They want a big blanket in there that they can roll up into. A really big beanbag chair, a chair that's bigger than the child. If the child throws themselves on it, the beanbag chair kind of like compresses them a little bit. There's a lot of resources for this kind of stuff. Don't put in... You could try it if your kid's into it, great. Chances are they're not going to be. These sort of lava lamp things, these little, you know, you make a thing in a bottle that has all this glitter, and they're supposed to like turn it upside down, and then they're supposed to breathe, do deep breathing while this stuff falls down. It's a wonderful idea, and it works for lots and lots and lots of kids. But a kid that's like already on the top of the mountain, angry, it's not going to work for. And if they throw it, you're going to have that stuff all over the place. Okay, I'm about to take this screen off. If you want to take a screenshot of it or a picture of it, I'll give you a second to do that. And, you know, these are just some ideas for this room. You want to be naming their behavior for what it is. Okay, it's not being mean, it's not being bad, it's not being a jerk, it's not being rude, it's hitting, kicking, biting. That's the behavior. If you mix it up with being mean, you're mixing the emotion with the behavior, and we really need to separate those. The only way to do that is you're going to go into your cool down room. You can come out when you're done hitting. That's when you can come out. I know, they won't stay in there. We're going to get to that. You can come out when you're done hitting. Not you can come out when you're calm. Not you can come out when you're nice. Because remember, at the very beginning, you want them to be able to bring every emotion they have to you. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Undo it. Stop screen sharing. We're back, Cheetah. So the aggression is a real challenge, and I know that a lot of you come to this really going like, okay, Rebecca, but here's a question. Do we need to physically pick up the child to get them into the cool down room? 80% of the time, there is something you have to do to make them go into that cool down room. If you have a 4-year-old, no problem. Pick up the 4-year-old. If you have a 4-year-old and a good back, you've got no problem. You just pick up the 4-year-old and put them in the room. Now, of course, your 4-year-old is not going to be like all sweet and passive like Cheetah is right now. It's going to be this kind of 4-year-old, right? Okay, but you know how to do that, right? Because you've taken them out of the library in a tantrum. Like, you know how to do that. Now, if you have a 10-year-old, you can't pick up a raging 10-year-old. Somebody's going to get hurt. I don't care how big you are. You can't pick up a raging 10-year-old without somebody getting hurt. And that's where we need to sort of delve down into some of these details. And that's where I want to let you know that after this webinar, I'm inviting you to have a session with me at a discount to just work out the logistics. Right, you've got this background. It's just like, okay, how do we work out these logistics of separating the feeling from the behavior? And that is through separating the child from whatever they're trying to hit or destroy. And that's the only thing that I have really seen to be effective. It's loud at first. But what happens is after you do this consistently for a while, and sometimes it's just a couple of weeks, the intensity and the frequency decreases. As you're accepting the anger, as you're allowing it, and as you are giving alternatives and doing this modeling, then that's where you're going to be able to see over time this decreasing. And yes, I do long distance sessions. In fact, I work exclusively on video, so nobody has to go anywhere. And we do a video session. It looks kind of like this, except in the video session, then you and I are talking and really working on your particular situation. I'm going to share my screen again. It's going to be so graceful, you won't believe it. Okay, here's what you learned today. It's awesome to have an intense personality. Tantrums are your friend. We want to validate the intensity and the emotions. And we're going to teach healthy emotional expression through modeling and through using the cool down room. We want to contain the anger so nobody gets hurt. And that's hurt physically and hurt emotionally. A lot of kids who have anger issues really are feeling the pain of that because, first of all, they don't know how to handle it, and everybody seems to be mad at them all the time. And their teachers, and these things might not be true, but the children say them. My teacher doesn't like me. My teacher thinks the other kids are better than me. I don't know why the other kids can do this stuff, and I can't. Now, some of the things that we did not talk about today are how to reduce the anger triggers without compromising on discipline. Okay, you've no doubt figured out how you can prevent a tantrum for a little bit of time, right? But you're compromising on discipline a lot of times when you're doing that. We also did not talk about how to problem solve with an intense, control-obsessed kid to help reduce their defensiveness. So these are things that are part of dealing with this whole anger picture and dealing with spirited kids to help them master themselves. And that's what my passion is. And that's where I want to help you, okay? So some of the things, and nobody's talking, but I can hear it. They're not going to stay in the cool down room. I can't stop the aggression. She's too big. I have an infant. So if you have a babe in arms, and you have a 4-year-old or a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old who's demanding your attention every time you breastfeed, what are you going to do? You're going to put down the baby, pick up the 4-year-old, put him in a room, come back to the baby. Like, it can be really hard. So I have a parent who has a 6-year-old with these anger issues, but the mother is immobile. So, okay, there's a whole new plan for that. We live in an apartment. I can't give them a drum. Like, they can't stomp. They can't bang on the walls. So these are the things that I want to invite you to work with me on. I want to, because you came to this webinar and you have this background, we can get right to work. So I want to give you a 20% discount on helping to put this into practice. And what that means is, for a single session, it's just $200. And then we see really what your particular situation is. And the more, if you want to write me 20 paragraphs about what's going on, then when we meet, we really hit the ground running. And I'm going to stop screen. So I would really invite you to let me be of help to you. What if the anger happens at home but not at school? I only experience tantrums at home or when he's with his dad. Here's some questions that that I'm seeing, and one reason I want to read them to you is so that you know you're not alone. This is, in my world, this is normal, right? What if she only hits her little sister but she doesn't hit me? Take advantage of this offer. I've worked with Rebecca before, and it made a world of difference. I'm on today for a refresher. And nice to see you again. There's another one. I agree. I've worked with Rebecca too. Okay, well, lovely. Very nice. Thank you. But let me know if you would like to do that. You're going to get a copy of this webinar. It's going to be available. Kirsten, can you help me with this piece? It's going to be available for how long? Saturday. It's going to be available till Saturday for you to be able to view the webinar again, but the offer stands. If you want to try some of this out, and that may be a good idea. Try some of this out and then say, okay, Rebecca, now I tried this and this and this, and I ran into some problems. What should I do? I want to thank you very much for joining us today. And for taking this time to help your child deal with their anger, which is a really important thing for parents to do. And if we can get the anger under control, appreciate the intensity, start helping the child engage for a minute to really, really make them full participants in the family, it helps solve a lot of these problems. And I want to wish you a very good day, and I'd love to have your feedback on the webinar itself and on also some of the technical aspects so we can improve in the future. Thank you so much.